Hi, everyone. I'm Sochi Bryson, a recent UC Davis grad and CADSA team member, and I'd like to welcome you to the Coalition for African Diaspora Student Athletes, or CADSA's, first episode of Food for Thought. This podcast series is meant to highlight and amplify student athlete voices on the topic of food insecurity, an issue that is unfortunately far too common within this community. We at CADSA strive to open a discussion about the real issues Black student athletes face and be champions for change and truly advocate for our community. So every individual feels welcome, supported, and heard. As a former student athlete at UC Davis myself, I threw discus and hammer on the track and field team. I'm extremely honored and excited to welcome another former UC Davis athlete and really close friend of mine, DeAndre Morgan, as our first guest. Without further ado, I will open up the floor for Dre to introduce himself.
Well, yeah, thanks, Sochi. Really excited to be here. My name is DeAndre Morgan. I'll be graduating at UC Davis at the end of this month with a community and regional development major and a minor in African Americans and African Studies. And I want to pursue a career in city government, either at the local or regional level. And I played football here at Davis too.
Nice. Well, I'm really excited to have Dre talk to us. Dre is a really close friend of mine. We've been working together with CADSA for basically almost our entire collegiate careers. But I really wanted to have this conversation with Dre, and so let's just hop into it. So right off the bat, I just want to hear a little bit about your personal experience with food insecurity within athletics, as a student athlete at Davis on the football team. Just hear about, the people that you talk to about it, just overall your experience with it.
Yeah, so my experience, man, it was crazy, and it was a really eye-opening experience. Going into college, I didn't think I would ever experience food insecurity. I was kind of naive going into, playing for a D1 school. I thought I'd get all the meals, be, treated like get whatever I want, and in regard to food and eating and all that. I didn't really know that it was very like dependent on myself. And I feel like that's a lot of student athletes like going into college. You don't feel like, you know, the first thing on your mind is, oh, what am I going to eat? It's always like, oh, I want to be good at the sport. I want to do this. I want to do it. Like you always have goals for how you want to do in the sport, but you never like, take the time to think about what goes into your body to make sure you're doing well at the sport. So, I just remember my very first time I really experienced it was sophomore year during the summer because we don't get meals or um, anything during the summer. Well, let me rewind a little bit. The football team is supposed to be here, June. Well, when I first got there, it was June 25th till August is like the report date. So you're supposed to report in August, and then you do fall camp and stuff like that. And in August, that's when you get your meals and stuff. But June, July, you're kind of on your own. And so, but you still need to be here for practices and lifts and all that. So, so my sophomore year, I didn't have a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie, I poorly managed my money in my sophomore year because no one teaches you how to manage your money. I just got some money and I was like, oh yeah, I ate whatever I wanted. I ate out. I didn't do well with, you know, the money I had. So by the time summer came and it was really hard for me to get food um, because, I thought we were going to get more money for the time being in June, July, but it didn't happen. So I was at a really low point. I lived kind of far from the practice facilities, so instead of buying food, I had to put money into gas, and I had to make some like really tough decisions um, because if I didn't have gas and I couldn't get to practice, then I feel like um, they they as in the coaching staff would be really mad at me, and they're like, "Why aren't you here? You should be here." and I want to be there, but at the same time I'm hungry. So like it's a give or take. It's like push and pull. So that was one of like the biggest things I always thought to myself, like, dang, I'm going to practice, but like I'm not getting better because I'm just so hungry. Um, Another experience I had with food insecurity is, you know, I talked to one of my coaches about what I was going through. I was very down. I didn't have any money. Like my stomach was always hurting because I was always hungry. And there was even I told him like there was even nights I went to sleep with just, I went to sleep hungry. I would drink a lot of water right before I went to sleep to make sure my belly was full. And I didn't really think about it. And I would try to go to bed really fast. So I didn't like I didn't feel like I was hungry, but obviously I knew I was hungry. So that was just a really like low time. I felt myself kind of not. I didn't feel like myself at all. And I really think it was because of like I didn't have any food, money, and I really felt like I didn't have any help. Like I felt super alone. Even when I went to go talk to my coach, I was like, the response he gave me was not helpful or beneficial at all. And going into college, you would never think you're in that position where you're deciding between gas or going to practice and other things like that. Like I really, there was a time like a 3-day stretch I remember when I only ate like I think 2 meals or something, but I had practice every day. And then I had to go to the training room and this and that. And, I talked to the trainers about I'm not eating, and they're like, well, you know, that sucks. But then they're just trying to do their job. And yeah. So, I mean, that was mainly my experience. It was really negative, and I just, you know, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone.
Yeah, it's definitely a shock, I think, for a lot of student athletes. Even people who are outside of athletics that I've talked to, when you think of D1, you think of fully funded, you think, athletes get everything, or at least,
Yeah.
people who aren't within this community, they definitely think, you get all the nice shoes and you get the nice backpacks, but when it comes
Yep.
down to it, you can't pay rent with a backpack or, eat a pair of shoes for dinner. So it's definitely a tough situation that student athletes are put in, especially when, you have these optional practices that aren't really optional, like you have in the summer for the football team.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that experience. It's definitely something that needs to be talked about, and other student athletes need to hear what's going on in their community. If you could talk a little bit about, I know that you reached out to a coach. If you could, you know, say something to the NCAA or, UC Davis Athletics Administration or the coaching staff just about your experience in food insecurity, what you would want to highlight or let them know.
Yeah, definitely. So if I was going back and talking to my coaches, there was a few conversations I remember of them, really pushing me and pushing some other guys too that I knew were, going through food insecurity and were hungry. They're always getting on our case at practice. They're always getting on us for, not being in the right spot or being lazy or not hustling to the ball, something like that. But, it's really hard to do that when you're running on E. And I remember that, Kaza UC Davis did a food insecurity um, like type program, and we got a lot of statistics, and we learned a lot about how having not if you don't have enough food in your body, like you're prone to injury. And like it's hard, like women on the track team or just women in general, women athletes, like their period is all like messed up because of the lack of food and nutrients and just stuff like that. So when I was getting injured, I didn't know at the time, but when I got injured, because I broke my thumb, I did I pulled my hamstring pretty bad. I had a couple groin injuries, But looking back, I was hungry, or I didn't have no food. Like when those injuries occurred, I if I think to like the time period of when that happened, I literally didn't have any food, or I didn't eat that much, or if I was eating, it wasn't anything healthy or nutritious. It was like a frozen pizza or something, because that's all the money we had to, buy for practice and stuff like that. So that never gets talked about, and I don't think that's fair when I'm going out there as a student athlete, I'm pushing myself to the limit. I have class, I have tests, I'm trying to learn the playbook, I'm trying to do everything the coaches is telling me. But when I get hurt because I don't have like the proper food or nutrients, like it's my fault. And I don't think that's really fair, because I'm put in that position because coaches, they didn't take when I told them I'm hungry. They didn't take it serious. When I told the athletic trainers I'm hungry and I don't have like, I literally haven't been eating, they didn't take me serious. And it's really hard for me to believe that that they didn't see the correlation between an athlete not eating and them getting hurt or them being injury prone. And that really makes me a little irritated, because if the athletic training staff is there to protect the players, and they should have some knowledge that if they're not eating, they're injury prone, and they should tell that to the coaches and then get them additional help, especially for, like, I'm not saying, I was a star player or something, but I was, a rotational player. I played. It's not like I didn't have playing time, but I also knew that there were some other people that were on the team that were really good, and like were our star players, and they were hungry, but they were getting. I mean, they were going through food insecurity, but they were getting hurt and they were injury prone. And I don't understand how that, you know, didn't correlate in the athletic trainers' minds, because they're there to protect the players. So, if I were to sit down and talk to the NCAA or my coaches, like I would just tell them that, like as student athletes, we're doing our best. We're a lot of student athletes are 18 to 22, like they're young, they it's sometimes, especially if student athletes are going to Davis or any D1 program and they're depending on a scholarship. I mean, most of these student athletes could come from lower economic households and stuff like that. So they depend on these scholarships. It's not like their parents can just come fork up the money and say, "Oh, here you go, like get some food and stuff." No, like they fight for a scholarship because they know their parents can't economically support them the way they should. But that's not no fault to their parents. They just, a, a, a way out to help their parents not have to worry about that. So I just think, they have to like be put the humans, like put the person in perspective. Like we are people. It's not just like we're a number, we're a statistic. Like we are people. If a person is hungry, we should understand that they need help and they're going to be injury prone. And if like I suffered a lot of concussions at Davis, unfortunately, and it was because like I just didn't one, I didn't have like the proper nutrients. So when I didn't and I got on the field, I was tired. And when I was tired, I didn't play well. And when I didn't play well, football is a dangerous sport. Other people are going 100%, even though I'm not. Like I got hit in the head a lot because I just literally did not have the energy. And it's all interconnected, it all intersects. So that's one of the main things I would want to like tell the NCAA. Like I literally went through hell, and it was like with food insecurity, and I just did. And on top of that, the coaches, when I got injured, would always be getting on me, which made me more like depressed and stuff like that, and stressed out about like losing a scholarship, getting beat out. Like your coach is always telling you, oh, when you're hurt, it's all in your head, it's all a mindset. Like you can get through the injury, but at the same time, like no, you can't if you don't have the proper, you know, help to get through it. Like I don't know, it's just really crazy to me how like that happens and it's not talked about enough. So That's all I really had to say. But you know, that's just really crazy.
Yeah, it's
Can't.
definitely athletics is just such a different beast, it's like it's really competitive, but I think, and that you need that competition, you need that like individual, accountability, you need to practice,
Definitely.
you need to be on top of your own stuff, but at the same time there definitely is like that mental health aspect. Your coaches, yes, some people respond really well to like tough coaches, and that's like, a thing. But you still, when you have athletes who are like reaching out for help, or they're saying, like, hey, I need help, off the field, off the track, out of the practice room, um, they coaches and like staff definitely need to have those resources. They need to have that knowledge and know how to help their athletes. Because, like you said, like we're people, like, yes, we're, making money for the university, like, yes, we are, putting on the uniform, yes, we have benefits, but like at the end of the day we're still people, and like you said, we're really young for the most part. A lot of us, it's the first time away from home, on our own. A lot of people don't know how to like handle and manage money. It's usually their first time like renting an apartment or cooking for themselves, and it's definitely a really difficult transition, on top of being a student athlete, on top of staying on top of your assignments and going to class and taking midterms and studying, but also going to PT. And, so it's definitely like,
Yeah,
I think there needs to be a better, more like holistic approach to athletics where coaches, yes, you have that toughness on the field, but there's definitely that, compassion and empathy off the field when student athletes need help, because, we're a team. So I feel like you can't just say that, to boost morale. You got to actually, practice what you preach on and off the field.
exactly. And just to piggyback off what you said, like, athletes are asking for help. It's super hard to ask for help. Like, it's not like I wanted, everyone to know that, or the coaches to know that I was really going through something. And like, it was super hard. And not just for me, I feel like it's hard for a lot of student athletes, to swallow their pride and be like, yo, I need help. Like, something's not right. My mental health is not right. I went through a phase where I literally couldn't eat, and that was horrible. Like, I would try to eat and then it's in front of my face, like food's in front of my face, and I just couldn't eat. But it's probably because I had a sufficient meal for so long that my body is just like it's being hard for it to eat again. I don't really know the science behind it all, but I tried going to therapy, and like that's just really hard to like admit, especially and minority communities. Like we don't talk about mental health that much, and I mean we're getting better. Don't get me wrong. Like there's more awareness about mental health and stuff, but 4 years ago we weren't talking about that, and or even 3 years ago when I was really going through food insecurity, we weren't talking about that. And like I just want to piggyback off of like what you said, because asking for help was super hard and it was super difficult for me. And for me to ask for help and then they just kind of shooed me away, I just didn't think that was fair, or um like fair to me as an athlete, because you brought me here, you recruited me, and like there's other places I could have went, but you recruited me. You wanted me to be here to help you and your program. So why can't you help me as a person? So that's
Mhm.
another thing I just really did not understand.
Yeah. And like you said, it's all connected, just, you facing food insecurity led to poor mental health, probably led to being more stressed out in your classes or not focusing as well in your classes as other students may have been able to. And so it's definitely it opens a very wide conversation about what needs to change and what resources need to be more available for student athletes. Um, but just talking about those resources, I was wondering if you could share any advice for student athletes who are currently facing food insecurity, or if you have any resources for, your Davis community, or just, in general, some tips and tricks, I guess, if you will, for kind of navigating food insecurity and like trying to seek out those resources and talking to coaches, staff, faculty, whoever.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the biggest resources around like the Davis and like Davis community is having what the food stamps, but it's not called food stamps. Can you help me out here? What's it called?
CalFresh.
CalFresh.
Yeah.
CalFresh. Yeah. So there's like things like CalFresh, like that really got me through like the food insecurity aspect of like not eating and stuff. I didn't learn about it until like kind of not like when it was too late, but I was by the time um I got into the program, my mental health was bad, my eating habits were bad, and I just feel like if you're going through food insecurity, one, don't be afraid to ask for help, and you are not alone. There's a lot of resources out there. Um, Aggie Compass at Davis is a really great resource, and they can help you. They're located in the MU, so they go in the MU. They're there for all students, and not just like students, but they're for student athletes. Um, so that's a really good resource, and you know I think the biggest piece of advice that I would say is to know that you're not alone, to know that it's okay to ask for help, to know that, you are going through something that many student athletes, especially at Davis, go through. And is it fair? No, but at the same time, there are other people you can talk to, and there are programs that are being put in place to ensure that, you aren't gonna be having to go through what I went through. Um, CalFresh now that they've partnered with Aggie Evo, now all student athletes at not Cadza, at UC Davis are allowed to um, apply for food stamps, even if even if you don't have the Cal A grant or stuff like that. Like you can apply for for CalFresh just for being a student athlete, and that's a really big thing. Like you get, I think it's around $200 a month just for food, and that's amazing. And if you don't use all the money, it just rolls over to the next month. So, that's a great resource for student athletes who are from the United States, and uh, they're from like I said, the United States, and they're at UC Davis, and they're a part of the Aggie Evo. That's all you need to get this money, like 196 or $200 a month, which is phenomenal. Like you don't have to worry as much. I mean, it's not hot food. It's just like food you can go to the grocery store and cook and get for yourself. And even if you're a freshman, you can still. I think it's really good to apply. So by the time you're a sophomore, junior, um, and if say you're a freshman and you don't go to the grocery store that much, but if you have, you know, CalFresh, and you have it for that whole year, and the money starts to roll over. By the time you're a sophomore, you'll have a lot more on the card, and they as in CalFresh is not going to cancel your benefits or anything. Um, like you just have to know the program, and if you don't understand the program that much, that's fine. Aggie Compass is there to help. They have great resources. They'll help you figure it all out. There's like the food pantry at Davis. There's there are multiple locations. Just either Google them, because I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know that they are there, and they are there for you. And also, for like the Black community at Davis, you can go to the CADS building, the Center for African Diaspora Student Success, and they have resources there for you. They have mentors, and they have people you can talk to, and they have staff, and they have a community there for you. So if you are going through food insecurity, they can help you out. It's not like you're stuck with your team. You there's other resources out there besides your coaches, and I didn't know that. I learned that really late, and so that's one of like the biggest things also, like people should understand is, yes, you play at Davis, yes, you have a coach and you have your team, but there's other people, there's other resources out there besides your team to really help you out. So I mean, that's really all I have, but those are some great resources at Davis that can really benefit you. So, like I said, you're not alone. It happens to a lot of people, unfortunately, but CADSA at UC Davis is trying to be better. They're trying to make sure student athletes, all student athletes, not just Black student athletes, all student athletes are not going through food insecurity, and they don't have to go through some of the things that we all went through a few years ago, and even like this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but I'm with you. I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to learning about resources so late. I probably learned about them at the end of my junior year of college. So it definitely would have been helpful to know about them a lot sooner. But having conversations like these, having open discussion about the issues at hand are really, really important, especially for incoming freshmen. Especially for people who are moving out of the dorms, or people who are just now dealing with this problem. But I just want to thank you, Dre, for everything that you've talked about. It was really wonderful hearing about your experience and just, having that open discourse about your personal experience with the issue, but also just like the lasting impacts and the different effects on mental health and, your education and things like that. And I really love what you said about you're not alone. It definitely sucks that we're not alone in this problem, but there definitely is a community that wants to help. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this. Do you have any last things you want to mention or say or anything like that?
Well, I mean, this was a great opportunity. I mean, you know, it should be a conversation that is had more often, even though it's uncomfortable. I mean, got to put your pride to the side a little bit, because that's when you really start to have some great conversations. It's a little nervous for me to come out and say all this stuff about what I've been through, but I know that if it helps one person, feel like they're not alone, understand that this is a common occurrence, unfortunately, but there's people and resources out there that's trying to make a difference. I think that's the biggest thing. That like really makes me want to tell my story and want to get it out there, because it can really help someone. And I'm really thankful that you gave me this platform to talk. And we've been through a lot, so I'm really glad that I was able to talk to you. And I really, like I said, I appreciate this opportunity. I loved every second of it. And I really hope that this conversation can really touch other student athletes and other students as well, to understand that student athletes aren't just like these spoiled people who get what they want all the time. Like, we go through some hardship, and there is a lot that we put our bodies through. There's a lot of time that we give to the university, time that we give to the sport, that goes unseen and goes unknown. So like, these scholarships aren't free for us. It costs us a lot of time, a lot of mental power. But like I said, I'm just really happy that we had this opportunity to talk and speak about this a very important topic. And yeah, I just can't wait to see other other student athletes come out and talk about their experience as well. So I'm really happy. Thank you, Sochi.
Of
And
course.
Kaza.
And we will have Dre's Instagram linked on this video, as well as some of the resources that he mentioned, and some other ones that CADS National has compiled. So without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Dre. Our next episode will our next episode will be in 2 weeks, so please be on the lookout. And thank you for tuning into our first episode of Food for Thought.